do you develop or do you recruit or do you do a bit of both? Obviously, we recruited Tyler Roberts to make a big impact in the final third, and Taylor Richards, and they've not been available to us. We've got, I think, in the league, two of the outstanding number 10s or forward players in Chris Willock and Ilias Chair. They've only played together in one game this year against Middlesbrough. We happened to win that game. So, before we start talking about the forwards, there's two things, isn't there? Like, I think where we're at financially, we're not a Premier League club that can just keep going to the window and buying players. So the level of the player that I'm looking at right now, if you say to bring in another number 9, is either a free transfer. I don't know, it gives free 20-goal a season strikers away. A loan player that has to be guaranteed to play. It will be a young player, right? He's now got to play every game as his financial penalties. That's the reality of the job. And then there's the players you're working with in-house. And I suppose it's whether you think the glass is half full or half empty. 19 days ago or whatever it was, 20 days ago, the league started and very few people have heard of Sinclair Armstrong. And now he's come on in 4 out of the 5 games and he's a fan favourite. So how things quickly can change in football. For that young boy, when he sat in my office this morning, 20 days ago, I'm sure his social media following wasn't as big as what it is now. When he walks down the street and goes into the stadium, everything's changed in his life. There's loads going on in terms of developing. Would I like us to have another player or have money to go and pay a lot of money for a centre forward? Of course, but that's not the reality of the situation we're in now. So my job is to develop and work with the players we've got here. If anything moves outwards, then of course we'll have more opportunities to bring him in. But until we've seen Tyler playing with a Lyndon, with Ilias, with Chris, until we've actually seen how that looks, or Sinclair playing with them, or just, or 3 out of that 4 playing together, until we've seen that, how can we judge where we're at? That's probably where we are. That's probably the eyes that we've got inside when we're watching these players thinking this will come together. That's the gamble we've got to take, because as I say, the other gamble is go and bring a boy on loan that has to play because you'll have financial penalties if you don't, or risk the financial, risk the future of the club by going down a route that we're not comfortable with, because it could lead to a transfer embargo in future windows or a points deduction, and we cannot do that. So that's the hand we're dealt with. I think we've got players good enough to score goals in this league. What's important is they stay fit and start playing together, and we've scored 5 goals in the 4 league games, so we've got more goals than games. So we'll stick with that for a minute, I think.
You mentioned the chances that were missed on Tuesday. Obviously, Lyndon missed a couple of those, and getting a little bit of stick from sort of sections on social media, etc., and members of the crowd. I mean, he's been okay prior to this season, prior to that game this season. Now, how was he after the game? Was he? I mean, obviously he was disappointed, but how do you get him back, sort of, focused and putting it behind him?
Difficult. Like today, modern day football players, they have a lot more on their plate than what they did maybe years gone past because of the social media element. You've got to understand his background as well. He's had a really quick rise, and it stings. I'm sure it stings. Do you know what I mean? There's one thing, you go in the changing room and you feel that you could have done better, but then it's everything else that goes with football clubs now. The thing is people go too high and too low. He scored against Middlesbrough, and I thought he gave Lenihan a real difficult day. And I thought up at Sunderland at the weekend, anyone that was there saw him run around and put his body on the line and go to fight with Danny Bath the whole game and not get any reward really in terms of chances. So, yeah, of course, he was a bit disappointed after the game. We spoke. He knows I trust him, and we go again. I think there's a lot of development to come in Lyndon. I think we have to cross the ball better. He's a forward that feeds off crosses. I think if you look at the goals that he's scored, I think the last 5 goals he's scored are headers off of crosses for club and country. So have we had that supply line right for him? As he had the only game where he did score, he had the right players around him, if you like, the key players in and around him. And I think we just go again. Young Sinclair came on and he showed everything that the promise that he shows. But as I said, 19 days, 20 days ago, no one really knew who he was. He'd only played in the Conference and League Two on loan. it takes a lot out of him physically. And I think, you've got to trust what we're doing behind the scenes. When we've got some fantastic development coaches here inside the club with years and years of experience in my staff, and then obviously you add mine on top of that as well. And so it's important that we bring that boy on at the right time. His minutes in every game have gone up, and so we're moving him in the right direction. But like I'd say, like 3 weeks ago, he hadn't made his debut.
And just with Lyndon, prior to the Blackpool game, I'm assuming Ethan Baird and hadn't trained very much with the rest of the players. Just working on that sort of relationship of, timing of crosses and that sort of thing. I mean, how important is that to kind of get right before Saturday?
Yeah, like if you work back, we played 3 games last week. So we had to travel back from Durham on Sunday. So we trained Monday. Ethan met his teammates for the first day. Second day recovery, we did about 30 minutes. We spoke a little bit about shape and set plays. Kenneth had been injured and it was his first game back. Poor Kenneth broke his nose on Tuesday night as well. So welcome to England, Kenneth. I see him this morning with his plaster on his nose where it's been reset. So, it's a rude welcome. Them two are meeting each other for the first time. They're meeting, Ethan's meeting Lyndon for the first time. I think what you saw with Ethan is he'll get to the byline. He'll take people on. He slid 2 or 3 balls across the box where I think on another day we should be scoring. I think he should be coming away as a fullback thinking I've done well there. And listen, we were off yesterday, second day recovery today. We'll train again tomorrow. The boys who played on Tuesday did very little today. So the training time at the moment is not plentiful. It's time together to do video analysis. There's time to recover and go again, because we are a small squad and we're just getting people back to fitness. As I said, Tyler, Chris and Ilias, I think, have trained together as a complete 3 times this season so far, including pre-season. So that gives you an idea that when these players are fit and play together, I expect us to be a much more potent team in attacking in terms of our cohesion and our combination play. But it's going to take a little bit of time.
Okay. Were you a little bit concerned about, it happened against Sunderland and for the Blackpool goal on Tuesday, so they come through the middle, sort of broke quite quickly. I mean, the way the midfield's working in a minute, is that sort of cause of concern, or are you is that just work in progress?
I was disappointed with the goal, because we spoke about before the game that we couldn't concede on a set play or a counter attack because we felt they were the 2 avenues that Blackpool would use. If you look at the goal, it comes from a drop ball, our own drop ball. We're unopposed. We kick the ball away needlessly. We make a couple of passes. We're free in midfield and we risk a ball we don't need to risk. And we're big. And we talk about never being big and open. It's something that I pride myself in. And we got done in that moment. We actually recovered the situation really well, but then we don't block. It was very similar to the first goal at Sunderland. We've got the right numbers in and around the ball, but we have to block. I'm not going to pick any names out, but you all saw the goal back yourself, I'm sure. So it's something that we need to talk about and keep working on.
Okay. And just with that sort of Johansson playing in that deeper role, is that kind of working to how you would like, or do you think you can be better? Well,
against Middlesbrough, they played in a 2 because Luke vacated the area. So it was different in that game, I thought. It suits him when we've got the ball and we're dominating, because he faced forward, and you've got Rob who are stepping and you've got he's passing. In another sense, maybe on the side doesn't suit him as much, but we'll see, because the formation's not set. So sometimes it'll be a 2, sometimes it'll be a 3, depending on who we play against. If we ever get to a stage where the 3 centre-halves are fit at the same time, then possibly we'll play 3 at the back. So the formation's not set. I just want the style to be bedded in a little bit more. I'd like to see us be a bit more patient when we get in the opponent's half and work our opportunities rather than forcing them. I think the crosses have been a little bit false. I don't think the combination play has been as good as what I see on the training pitch. So that's what I'm looking for us to improve.